We come now to verse 30 of the 18th chapter of the Gospel of John. We're at that moment in which Jesus, having had a preliminary hearing in front of first Annas and then Caiaphas, is being hauled off to the Roman procurator, the governor, Pilate. And Pilate, of course, is in the praetorium, but because the Jewish leadership don't want to defile themselves before the Passover, it requires Pilate to go out and meet them in some kind of outer area, and that's where we pick up the story. So as Pilate has brought Jesus out, or Jesus has been presented to Pilate, Pilate then asks the question, okay, what has this guy done? And we get the story picking up from there. So we have apokrithesan from apokrinomai. Deponent verb means I answer. It'll take the dative. And in this case, we have the third person plural, aorist, passive in form, active in meaning. They answered him. Here's the dative down here, auto, the dative singular masculine pronoun. So these are the religious leaders now answering Pilate. We have the characteristic kai, the connective apan. They said. The apan is similar to apon. Both of them derive from lego, I say. This is a second aorist verb, third person plural, aorist active indicative. So they answered and said to him. A may, the combination here will typically mean unless. We, of course, have a literal rendering, if not, which gets the notion across, but typically in English we'll say unless. And then ain, this is the third person singular, imperfect active indicative of a me, I am. So unless it or he was, the subject of that verb, hutos, the demonstrative pronoun, masculine singular nominative. So unless he was, this one was, is the idea. It's masculine, so we might read into it this man. Unless this man was, and then kakon. The word means generally bad. And so that's the notion here. And then poion from poieo, to make or to do. This is the present active participle in the nominative going along with the subject of the sentence. Present participle indicating kind of ongoing action, in other words. So unless this man was a doer of bad things, a doer of evil. It's actually in the singular, unless this man had done a bad thing would be more the notion, but you get the feel for what they're saying here. This should be a comma. Uk, not the negation on, contraction of eon, and so we would not would be the idea. Paradokamen, from paradidomi, to deliver over, is often used with the idea of handing someone over. It's used to describe Judas betraying Jesus. Here it's more of a judicial idea, handing him over. This is the first person plural, aorist active indicative. So if he were not a doer of bad things, we would not, notice it's the first person plural, have handed him over. Soy, to you, is the indirect object. Auton is the direct object. We wouldn't have handed him, direct object, over to you, the indirect object. So you can see the religious leaders are not wanting to spell out in particular what the evil thing was that Jesus had done. In effect, they're wanting to preempt that entire judicial process and simply say to Pilate, look, we've already found him guilty, so you just need to rubber stamp our decision. Obviously, Pilate isn't quite so prepared to do that, and it gives rise to the conversation that we're going to see in the next several verses.